Okay, in our craft book, we are on page 9. I don't know if you noticed that I was on the wrong page on the other constructions, but we should be on page 9 for our next special quadrilateral. And for this, we are going to kind of towards the center of the page, and we're going to trace alongside. I'm going to come center. So I'm going to trace the long side, but I'm not going to trace the point. What I want to do is I want to pick a point above the midpoint, anywhere. Just kind of mark that point, kind of show it on the card too. Notice where my point I'm picking. And I just realized my line didn't get traced, so let me get myself some more lead. Alright, so trace to the side, mark my new point. So there we go. So we have the segment, the long segment trace, and a new point, not a midpoint. And we are now going to intersect at that point. And we're going to line up our card so that it lines up at that point, and we're going to trace the long side like such. Okay? So, because this is not a midpoint, this segment is not congruent to the other segment, or the intersection, creating two different segments. We have a small segment and a large segment. But since we're using the same total segment, you know, this segment here, the small segment, is not congruent to large. So we got 1 to 2. And I'll show you with some patty paper to verify that that is correct. So we are now going to connect the endpoints. My endpoint, I think this is off. That's it. That's far. So I need you to connect your endpoints so you can see our new quadrilateral that we have just created, which is, hopefully you see, it is a trapezoid. Okay, we have a trapezoid. So alright, so we're gonna put T R A P, and Z is the intersection. And also, I want you to kind of number the angles just to help you see some relationships so we can pinpoint them a little bit faster. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3. Oh, let's go the other way. Sorry. Let's go down. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do 5, 6, and then 7, 8, and then here 9, 10, 11, and 12. So I'm going to zoom just in just a bit so you can kind of see how I numbered the trapezoid angles, because there's several of them. Alright, so I'm going to use some pattern paper to hopefully get you to see. I'm hoping you see that there are 4 right triangles. I mean, not right triangles, 4 triangles in the interior of the trapezoid. If I just look at one side, that's my side TP, I'm just going to trace it. I'm hoping you see that it is congruent to side AR. So what we have constructed, I'll put 3 tick marks, and 3 tick marks, is an isosceles trapezoid. So I'm going to give you definitions for both of them. So a regular trapezoid, just regular trapezoid, is a quadrilateral. I'm going to just say quad, with only one pair, and that's my abbreviation, I'm sorry, quadrilateral, only one pair, PR is my abbreviation for pair, of opposite sides parallel. And I would have just put the symbol just in case. So you have only one pair of opposite sides parallel. That is your top and your bottom. Okay. Now, for an isosceles trapezoid, which we have here, and I'm just going to put it at the bottom here. isosceles trapezoid. You have a trapezoid with congruent with one pair of opposite sides congruent. So you have one pair of opposite sides congruent. Usually those sides that we call are congruent, we call them the legs. So the legs of a trapezoid. I'm just gonna go ahead and add that just so you know. The opposite sides that are congruent would be the legs. And there's the non-parallel sides. So the opposite sides, so the trapezoid with one pair of opposite sides congruent, we can put on here so we understand, and they're non-parallel. Those sides that are congruent are non-parallel. Now, back to my little patty paper because I want you to see a relationship that occurs in isosceles trapezoid. So let's say I look at my triangle TPZ with angles, and I'm going to put it in here. You have angle 1, angle 3, and angle 10. So if I'm hoping you see, we know 10 and 12 are congruent because they're vertical. So if I just do a reflection, hopefully we see a reflection. If I just flip it and line it up, I'm hoping you see that angle 10 is congruent to 12. Angle 1 is also congruent to 9, and then 3 is congruent to 6. So put one arc here, one arc with 7. I'm going to do 2 arcs for 3 and 2 arcs for 6. So we know those two go together. Then if I also look at my triangle PZA, so if I look at, hoping you see this isosceles triangle here, because we have the long side with 2 tick marks, so 2 tick marks, and with the base right there. Sorry, so that's PAC. Now, if I'm just looking at angle 4, so 4, 11, and 5. If I rotate this and line it up on top of angle 8, it is congruent. Just like if I move this over, line up 5 with 2, it is also congruent. So you see, hopefully, the two isosceles triangle, they're not congruent, but they are similar. So 4 would have 3 arcs, 1, 2, 3, and we know 4, since these are isosceles, 5 is also going to have 3 arcs, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So the isosceles triangle inside of the trapezoid are similar. They're not congruent. You have a small one and a big one. So you have the legs that are congruent, and then in the trapezoid, the opposite sides that are parallel, we call those the base. So you usually have base 1 and base 2. So those represent our base in our trapezoid. So properties of an isosceles trapezoid, I'm hoping you kind of see there's some congruent angles here. I'm hoping you see that 5 and 6 have the same marking, okay? And so they would have the same marking as 3 and 4. So the base angles are going to be congruent. I'm hoping you see that 8 and 7 have the same 2 markings as 2 and 1. So you see that those angles are going to be congruent. So properties of the isosceles trapezoid. Well, it has all the properties of a regular trapezoid, which is meaning you have, let's write these out. You have exactly one pair, I'm going to abbreviate, one pair of opposite sides parallel, and you have exactly 2 pairs of consecutive angles supplementary. So exactly 2 pairs of consecutive angle supplementary. Meaning only the top and the bottom are going to be supplementary. if I go across, they're not going to be supplementary. They're going to end up being congruent in a isosceles trapezoid. But in a regular trapezoid, they're not going to be congruent. So only two pairs. Instead of all pairs, we're just going to go from top to bottom. So like the right side and the left side are your consecutive pairs that are supplementary. Now in an isosceles trapezoid, you have those properties. You have your non-parallel sides. Your non-parallel sides are congruent. Okay? You have your non-parallel sides congruent, and you have diagonals that are congruent. And the last one, hopefully you have room. You have the base angles that are congruent. So that pretty much wraps up our special quadrilateral, the trapezoid, which is in a total different category of our parallelograms that we did on page 1. So last little video for our last quadrilateral that we're going to construct. So please click on that video for page 11. Thank you.